Hi, I'm Cynthia Pong, Forbes contributor for leadership strategy, founder and CEO of Embrace Change, award-winning executive coaching and training firm. And today I am launching a new video series for executive and senior leaders called The Future of Leadership. In this video series, we will explore the evolving landscape of executive leadership in a volatile world, strategies for navigating complex challenges and driving organizational success, and practical strategies to help you lead with confidence and impact. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you know when I drop future videos in this series. So today's topic is unlocking engagement, the executive leader's guide to a thriving workforce. Now you may be thinking, Cynthia, I have way too many fires to put out on the day-to-day in my company. Employee engagement is simply not something that I have bandwidth for right now, which I understand where you're coming from. Believe me, I have seen this from the inside and the outside of so many companies and organizations, and I know it's a real pain point for leaders, especially now with the unprecedented rate of change and the volatility that we are seeing and experiencing every single day. But employee engagement is not just a nice to have. According to Gallup's annual report on the state of the global workforce from 2024, highly engaged teams show 23% greater profitability. 23% profitability. So that is a significant percentage increase compared to teams that are not highly engaged. So if you want your company's bottom line to improve or even simply stay the same, if it's good already, you need to prioritize employee engagement as an executive or senior leader. And as that senior leader, it is imperative that you keep your eye on that prize. How do you build, create, and maintain an engaged workforce in your company or organization? Because what you don't want are a lot of folks who are in your company and they're not necessarily a flight risk, but they're not engaged because they spend most of their workday distracted, anxious, and stressed, unable to deliver what you need from them because they are not well. And I would even venture to say that most employees and leaders right now are not well, and you can't be engaged if you're not well at baseline. So figuring out how to keep your employees and your leaders' well-being and engagement high, that is the golden ticket. Also, if you're looking into the future, because we are talking about the future of leadership right here, future generations in the workforce and coming into the workforce, Gen Z and beyond, the key to unlocking their talent, their productivity, and their engagement is purpose, connection, and growth opportunities. That's what they're looking for. That's what they care about, not simply a paycheck. And we can try to ignore that, but we do so at our and our company's peril. So executive leaders who understand and are able to meet and address these evolving needs, those are the ones that will continue to attract and retain top talent through all the ups and the downs, instead of flushing money down the drain, training up people who then leave your company in a heartbeat the second that they get a better offer from a competitor. So now it's time for our leadership reality check, where I keep it real and break this topic down for you. This is the problem. 1, the myth of command and control. All too often, I see, hear, and work with executive leaders who are still clinging on to outdated models for leadership that prioritize control over connection. This approach is not only ineffective, it also actively can damage employee morale and well-being, which we've just discussed is really critical to employee engagement. 2, the disconnect. There's often a disconnect between what executives and senior leaders think motivates their employees and what actually motivates these employees. A lot of the times we may think, oh, it's the pay, it's the comp package. It just comes down to our competitors can pay better, they have a stronger brand, they have more clout, et cetera, et cetera. Well, in actuality, things may be way more within your control than you might think. A recent study from McKinsey on performance management found that employees felt more motivated when their goals included a mix of both their individual and team level goals, and when their goals were clearly linked to company goals. So all of that is something where an executive and senior leader like you can put into place systems and structures and initiatives to make sure that that base level of alignment, which is so key to the employee engagement, is in place. You are simply connecting the dots for folks. How does what they want line up with what the company wants and needs? And the stakes, once again, the cost of disengagement. Disengaged employees are expensive. They are very, very expensive, and they cost in more ways than one. They are not only less productive, but they can also negatively impact team morale and customer and client satisfaction. You know that saying about, how one rotten apple can just spoil the whole barrel. One disengaged employee can lead to significant financial losses for the entire company. And we don't want that, right? As opposed to the 23% increase in profitability if you have a highly engaged workforce in your organization. And that is your leadership reality check. Now, before I get to solutions, because you know I'm all about solutions and practical strategies you can actually implement today now, be sure to sign up for my newsletter, The Trajectory, where I share tons more actionable career advice on a weekly basis. The link is in the description. And if you want occasional additional emails that are specifically tailored to those on the path to the C-suite, be sure to sign up at the link for C-suite insiders specifically. All right, solutions. So how do we move from disengagement to a thriving workforce? Let's talk about my 3 C's of employee engagement. So look, I know you're a busy exec. You don't have time, certainly not the brain space and mental bandwidth to be remembering all of the things. So I'm just going to give you 3 C's to get you to a maximally engaged workforce. The first C, connection. Focus on building genuine relationships with your employees. Get to know their aspirations, their challenges, what motivates them, right? And while you may not be able to do this with your entire company, I know, always a question of scale, right? You can be strategic about doing this and building that connection with the rest of your C-suite, for example, or certain high potential employees or emerging leaders in the company. You could also, if you want to be a bit more ambitious, you can even think about whether you can do this and build this genuine connection over some sort of a cross section of your entire company over time. None of this is a one and done, and none of this is going to be done overnight. If you do this, though, if you make it a priority to build genuine relationships with your employees, not only are you ensuring the future survival and growth of your company through building and fostering trust, understanding, empathy through this connection, you are also keeping a finger on the pulse of what is going on in your company, which you need to know at all times. Because then when there's that first warning sign of something going awry, you're on it instead of waiting for issues to percolate on up to you over months because everyone's afraid to tell you something. And then by the time you find out, it's already too late and irreversible damage has been done. So what can you do here practically? Implement periodic one-on-one meetings with key employees and leaders in your company where you focus on their professional development and well-being, not simply the task updates, how is such and such deliverable in the timeline, and so on. Even if you do this once a year for a handful of high-value employees, that can make a world of difference for them, for you, and for the entire company. All right, so that's the first C, connection. The second C is communication. So very much related to my first point, be transparent and open in your communication. And I've written a bunch about this in my Forbes contributor column on leadership strategy. So I'll drop that link in the description too, and you can read about it at your leisure. But in terms of being transparent and open in your communication, of course, you cannot always say all of the things, and that is not what I'm asking or suggesting here. But as far as the high level things like sharing the company vision, sharing your vision, sharing the challenges that may be showing up for everybody right now, and talking explicitly about how each and every one of your employees contributes to the overall success of the company and the mission. At baseline, people need to know that they're seen. They need to know that they're heard, and they need to know that they matter as something that is bigger than themselves. You, as the executive or senior leader, are the perfect person to make sure that they know that and that they feel that through your communication. And there are many opportunities to practice more effective, impactful comms like this. All hands meetings, town halls, team briefings with your senior leaders, your ELT, written comms too can be really effective for doing this and maybe more practical and have more longevity in some circumstances. I was just talking to a client last week about the importance of communicating clearly about company values and vision and really breaking down for people examples of how those values and how that vision looks on a day-to-day, because that's where the disconnect also often can be, is people are like, okay, cool, these are the values, I know them, I can recite them to some extent, but what does that look like operationalized in the real world, in the reality and the time in which we are on a week-to-week basis? And that particular client and their company is going through a major, major pivot as they go through another round of funding. So it's a super high stakes time. Nobody has time. They're very time scarce. They're very resource scarce, but it's never too early. And we really have to prioritize planting those seeds because the one thing we can't do is turn back time. So plant those seeds as early as you can with your employees around what are we about as a company? Why does all of this matter? Why do you all, as the employees in this company, matter? And again, I've written a number of Forbes articles on this topic about the nuances and the ins and outs of the communication. So be sure to follow me over on Forbes so you don't miss any new insights on leadership strategy there. So that's the second C, communication. The third C is cultivation. All right. So at this point, you might be like, okay, Cynthia, you had me with communication and connection, but cultivation just sounds like you're trying too hard to make this 3 C's thing work. Okay, I get it. You may have a point there, but hear me out. I do think about companies and organizations, including my own, as an ecosystem. So in a sense, there really is no better word than cultivation to get at this concept that for executive leaders who really care, we want to create and cultivate a culture of growth and development within these ecosystems that are our organizations, right? And so this is where culture is actually a verb and an action word, not a noun, because it requires action and active attention and intention. We want to build a culture so that we can attract and support talent who have a growth mindset. We want to support continuous improvement. We want our ecosystem and the individual employees within that ecosystem to be invested in their own ongoing education and training, to be invested in mentoring others and receiving mentorship, to be invested in cultivating, creating, and pursuing opportunities for advancement. And I'm not just talking about upward movement on an org chart. I'm talking about a way broader sense of pursuing opportunities, because it could be pursuing opportunities that will advance the company too, internal, external. That's what ideally we want in our companies, to instill that culture so that that's always running in the background and supporting the work. So how do you do this? Well, one, as the senior or executive leader, you have to lead by example. You got to model it, right? Everyone's continually looking to you for signals and signs. And whether you think like this or not, whether you are actually walking the walk, people's spidey sense can pick up on that, sometimes even more than they're actively cognizant of. So beyond your words, which we've talked about, the communication C, make sure you are taking aligned action in cultivating by one, naming what you and the company are striving to do, and two, putting into place initiatives, policies, and other actions that operationalize this. So words and actions. Concretely, I mean actions like recognizing and rewarding employees for showing, exhibiting, supporting a culture of growth and development, for supporting the growth and development of others in addition to themselves. Those things can be recognized, acknowledged, and rewarded. You can also empower your leaders to implement programs and opportunities that support this, learning opportunities, training and certification opportunities, teaching and mentorship opportunities. This is how you create these positive reinforcement feedback loops, and those can be pillars in cultivating that culture of growth and development. And that's the third C of how you're going to build in and support more employee engagement in your company or organization. So next steps, right? Because I just gave you a whole ton of stuff. That was a whole lot of material. I understand. I am just going to give you 3 next steps, right? So you can boil this all down, and no matter what happens, these are 3 things that you absolutely can do either today, this week, or this month. The first thing, that first C, connect. Who is one key person in your company that you haven't checked in with recently? And I'm talking about more than just the KPIs and the OKRs, the timelines, the deliverables. You haven't checked in with them recently about how they're doing, what their goals are, what challenges they're facing. Who is that one person, and how can you get a one-on-one on the calendar with them in the next month? Second action step, identify one area where you could strengthen your communication with your company or your leadership team. What is one thing that you can share with them that will get them more invested and engaged in the company and its mission? I guarantee you there's something, whether you are underscoring something you already said, or whether it's something new, whether it's something you can signal to them is coming down the pipeline, there is something there. Just pick one thing where you can strengthen your communication on that. And then 3, remember, this is even a bit of a doozy and a gimme. Simply remember that you lead by example when it comes to cultivating a culture of growth and development in your organization. Are you investing in your own growth and development? Are you supporting others to do so for themselves? And are you supporting others to cultivate this on their own teams, right? Just remember that you lead by example in all of that. And that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. If you found this helpful, Embrace Change is a woman of color founded, run, and operated micro business, and we are grateful for your support. So like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. I'll see you next time on The Future of Leadership.